Growing concern about American ISIS fighters returning to the U.S. undetected. A new report claiming most of the nearly 130 Americans who went overseas to join the terror army are now unaccounted for. Let's bring in David Sears, a former Navy SEAL and co-founder of Zundis Global. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks, Molly.
So I want to start by talking a little bit about what ISIS accomplished, which was they created this caliphate. They drew in fighters, enormously successful at doing this, some 40,000 from around the globe. The caliphate shrinks, begins to be defeated. They lose their capital city, which means they lose the territory, the taxes, etc., and fighters begin returning home. How concerned should we be about those individuals?
We should definitely have some concern about those individuals and where they're going. I think, though, that the United States has a natural geographic buffer that's going to help it with some of that. Europe is going to have a lot bigger problem. It's easier to take boats across, walk across the borders there, but it is certainly a concern, and we've known this going forward. As we press on that balloon, it's going to squeeze out in other places.
Is it tougher to come back to America, to the U.S., than it is to get into other countries across Europe, the U.K., et cetera?
I believe without a doubt it is. So you can walk to Europe. Essentially, you could take a boat across, you can walk through Turkey, take a small boat from Greece over, so it's a lot easier. Although Europe is noticing, too, because of the porous nature of its borders, a lot of those countries are having a lot of pushback, and they're clamping down on their borders, whether it's Austria, Czechoslovakia, Romania, all those pieces. Sweden, they're seeing less people return as they clamp down.
Who are these individuals? You know, are they small-time fighters? Did they learn dangerous skills while they were there?
That's the unknown variable that's out there, and you would tend to see, as the war has gone on and those that have survived or managed to find avenues to return, or the finances to return, or the networks to return, they would tend to be the more capable fighters. So that's a big concern. Are they bomb makers? What experience do they have in explosive improvised devices, things like that? Because that's going to be gained. Practical experience on the battlefield cannot be underestimated how dangerous it is.
When ISIS has begun to dissolve physically there on the ground, they also have this enormous online presence that's very dangerous. And they've even said, to a certain extent, you know, stay home, stay in your home countries, take your actions there behind this ideology. You can be part of us without physically coming to the Middle East or relocating you and your family. Is that a big concern now as we're seeing people disperse, physically go back to their home countries?
It is, and I think it's been a concern for a while now. ISIS started this movement a while ago. Once it saw Mosul begin to fall or come under heavy pressure, the Russian presence in Syria, they started pushing people to, hey, stay at home. Don't come here. We want you to fight the fight of our ideology where you currently are. You can do more good for us there. So we've been watching this. Those are the unknowns, and those are very, very dangerous.
When we talk about someone physically getting back to somewhere in the ground, whether it's in the UK or here in America, then they can begin to talk to like-minded individuals. And is that where the danger is, that we see not just the individual themselves as a danger, but a cell being created, that sort of thing?
Absolutely. So can they motivate others, or can they radicalize others with their experiences that they've had over? They essentially become war heroes to the effort of the ideology, so they can pull in the younger, more kids that can be influenced by this and radicalized easier. But we can also track them a little bit easier too, so we can keep an eye on that a little bit. But it is a difficult problem, and they do have a lot of experience that comes out of the war fighting.
I mean, is that something we need to be particularly cognizant of as this goes forward, that sometimes they're very talented messengers? They might not have been the great warrior or been successful in some sort of physical fight, but they're the ones that are the good communicators.
They certainly could be. I think a lot of their communication, though, is they're people that's focused online, and that cyber world of things. So we actually have kind of a unique problem going on right now in terms of talent acquisition and retention. In the law enforcement fields, we can acquire a lot of people. People come to that in the United States, and we get the best and brightest, right? We have a problem with retention of those at sometimes. But acquisition in the cyber world, it's difficult for the government and the bureaucracies and agencies to recruit the best and the brightest in the cyber world, because they're in a massive competition for talent with, Silicon Valley and other places now. So some of the communicators exist really in that cyber world. I'm not sure how many exist on the battlefield or that are going to slide out of there and be able to transmit that message, but it's definitely a concern.
David Sears, thank you so much. We appreciate your insights.
Thanks for having me, Molly.